Hello, my name is Jaru, and today we're looking at a little video called the Amazing Digital Circus Pilot. This is a video that some of my viewers suggested to me and said that they might find some interest in seeing me react to it. Apparently, my unique analytical style may lend itself to whatever this is. I really don't know anything about it. I've seen that it's popular on social media, and that's about it. But for those of you clicking on this video because it's just another Amazing Digital Circus video, fair warning, I am primarily a theory crafting and analytical channel, and so that's going to be the focus of my reaction. I'm going to be pausing a lot. I'm going to be going frame by frame. I'm going to analyze background elements. I'm going to do a lot of stuff that isn't just me sitting here going, ha ha, at whatever's happening on screen. And in fact, if I don't have anything to say during a particular moment, or if I don't have any reaction to what's happening on screen, I'll probably cut it out. So if you were looking for a more traditional reaction, you might have to look elsewhere. But if you're looking for an analytical reaction that's interested in themes, lore, theory crafting, etc., then this might be the channel for you. So, yeah, without further ado, let's hop into the Amazing Digital Circus Pilot. And of course, almost forgot, if you enjoy this content or would like to see the channel not die, consider supporting me on Ko-fi or Patreon. Both are great ways to support the channel. One, specifically Ko-fi, lets you donate once and work towards fund donation goals, while Patreon lets you support the channel more frequently and get sneak peeks of upcoming content. With all that said, we're ready to begin for real this time. All right. Already I'm noticing some interesting details here. So, the style of these graphics at the beginning starts off in this super low poly, like Mario 64 level graphics, before transitioning to something a bit more high res. It distinctly reminds me of those old PC games from the 90s and 80s, like the ones that are like educational, very strange looking. So that's the first thing I noticed, and then it transitions into something more high res. So already my thought is this is some sort of, especially considering it's called the Amazing Digital Circus, that this is some sort of, oh, and notice how the black bars on the side fade away almost immediately. That makes it seem like there's a framing device of us being within a video game or some other similar fictional, sub-universe. So that's what I'm noticing right out the gate. We can continue now. Although, actually, I do need to turn down the volume because it is kind of blowing my eardrums out.
Welcome to the Amazing Digital Circus! My name is Cain. I'm your ringmaster, and I'm here to show you the most jaw-dropping, heart-stopping, mind-bending paraphernalia you've ever laid your eyes upon!
Okay. Alright. Wow. Okay, so what was your name again, Mr. Guy? Let me rewind that real quick. I was wondering if I might need captions for this. Let me just see. The Amazing Digital Circus. Very fun, cartoony animation style, I'm already saying. It's three-dimensional, so it's 3D animation. Kudos, though. Like, 3D animation has come so far on the internet in terms of these indie projects. Specifically, like, I'm thinking back to stuff like Red vs. Blue and Ruby, where it's, like, pretty rough around the edges. Seeing something like this is crazy. Like, we've come so far. So, character design. this is clearly some sort of magical world, one where normal rules and such do not apply. Hence the fact that we're talking to a man or an entity whose head is a pair of jaws and his eyes are inside the teeth. And he talks, but his teeth never touch per se. So he's not really speaking in the way that a human speaks, with their lips and tongue and the roof of their mouth all interacting in a normal way. So already this is clearly some sort of magical land. Also, he has what's it called, where one eye is a different color than the other? He has that. One's blue, one's green. He's some sort of ringmaster. Interesting. Okay, not much so far. What was the rest of his line? Oh yeah, Cain. Interesting. The name Cain doesn't ring too much of a bell in terms of like what this might be a reference to, if any. Cain and Abel is really the only thing I can think of. So maybe this is some sort of antagonist. Who knows? And then he said, I'm the ringmaster. I'm here to show you the most jaw-dropping, heart-stopping, mind-bending paraphernalia you've ever laid your eyes on. What was this? Is this a brain? Oh yeah, it was a brain. Paraphernalia. So like, that's clothing of some kind. Alright.
Isn't that right, Bubble?
That's right, Cain. I can't wait to see what you've got cooking up for today.
Well, let's not waste any time. Let's get right into the show.
There's music. Have I been going frame by frame through like the first 2 seconds of the intro before the episode has even started? Quite possibly. But, you know, that's my style. So again, if this is not quite the reaction you were expecting, I apologize. Let's see. Who was this strange bubble creature? It's very Jaws. Like, it reminds me very much of like a Bullet Bill or some sort of Mario creature. Very colorful playpen, children's-esque playhouse. There's a cannon, little panels with blue-white skies on them. All right. I'm gonna react. I'm gonna watch the next like 30. Yeah, I'm gonna do what I did with whatchamacallit, The Greatest Living Show, and kind of watch it in 30-second chunks, and so maybe more depending on what feels necessary. But yeah, all right. Be right back. Oh, let me unmute it. Okay, I watched a couple minutes here in dead silence, so you're probably not going to see any of that. Let me just go back. Okay, so yeah, watching a few minutes definitely gave me some more context that I needed to understand what the heck is going on. So, what's her face? The clown girl. She is, or I say girl. I don't know their gender yet, technically. They have just arrived in this video game world, and they put on a headset, and they have been isekai'd into what appears to be some sort of 90s educational, I mean, not educational, but goofy children's, friendly for all ages video game type world. And it's being treated with the correct amount of horror. What's interesting about this genre of, like, the isekai genre of, oh, I died and have been reincarnated into another realm, is that in Japanese media, this genre is usually treated as a form of escapism. There's a sort of darkness to it inherently, because it's working off the idea of, like, Japanese life is so awful and mundane and depressing that the idea of dying and waking up in some magical fantasy realm is intensely appealing. But in the actual animes and such, they usually treat it as being very silly and goofy and fun. Because it's supposed to be escapism. It's not supposed to linger on how depressing life is. Whereas this seems to be taking a different approach with the character being immediately freaking out about being in another world. They like put on a headset. Now, as we go deeper, we might find out, oh, clown person, jester person, they're from a world where, in their life, they're super ultra depressed and hate themselves, and everything sucks. So maybe this will turn out to be more akin to a typical isekai. But for now, it definitely seems to be taking a bit of a subversion of that genre. And as we progress, we have Gangle, and presumably most of these other characters are also humans who got sucked into this digital world and are now trapped here. So we have Gangle, who is a bit of string wearing a comedy mask. That's a fun design. Simple but effective. Zubul, who I'm very... this one has my sympathy. Like, most of the characters, I'm like, I wouldn't mind having that body for the rest of my life. This one ain't one of them. This one's like, ooh, I'd be depressed and sassy and moody and not be very happy about anything if that's how I ended up looking. That's a yikes. And Kinger, who looks like a chess king type character in a pillow fort, who's apparently been here the longest and is bonkers. He appears to have green eyes. Okay. Before I forget, so Bubble appears to be like the co-host of this circus, the show. And if we're working off the assumption that their character designs have anything to do with their characters, String here seems to be flimsy, emotional, prone to getting shattered and walked all over easily. We see that in a few moments later when the rabbit character treats them poorly. So maybe this person was a bit fragile. This character seems to be just an absolute mess. Like, they're trying every kind of style imaginable to try and fit in, or maybe they're trying specifically to not fit in by being an amalgamation of everything. Very counterculture is the energy this character design gives off. Also Frankenstein's monster, so that's interesting. Kinger seems like a more traditional character design. Rayman hands, big ol' eyes, like a Banjo-Kazooie type character. Perhaps they had a grandiose idea of themselves in life. Maybe they thought they were some sort of grand royalty or intelligent entity, but obviously they've mentally degraded so much that maybe they don't remember that anymore. Then there's Ragatha, who is distinctly reminiscent of Raggedy Ann. So that's interesting. Yeah, she appears... she/they appears to be some sort of ragdoll, which is interesting. I think they have gotten off better than a lot of the other characters. At least they're roughly, probably the most humanoid looking of the bunch. Also, they seem to be happy to be here. So that's interesting. Ragdolls, they're stitched together. They're a bit of a mess. Obviously, this particular ragdoll is missing an eye. Their dress is all stitched together. So maybe this is a character who is perhaps one of the nicer, more well-put-together characters, but is actually a bit damaged. And then we have Jax, who seems to be, let me get rid of these captions, the most confident. The way that his teeth don't move when he talks is unnerving a little bit. Again, another character design that's probably on the preferable side, probably the more comfortable, if I were to be stuck in, because at least it's roughly humanoid. Bit of a jerk. Seems to be the kind of the jerk-ass member of the party, the one who his method of coping is to make fun of everyone and everything and just be a grand old jerk. Purple Rabbit. there might be some symbolism there. Obviously, some of these character designs might have absolutely nothing to do with symbolism or themes or character design, or not character design, but like character representation and personality representation. It could just be that they're meant to be fun, wacky characters. But, you know, I'm going to assume they have significance until proven otherwise. Okay, and then there's this. While all the others might be humans, except for like the Ringmaster and Bubble, I'm not so sure about this one. Disclaimer, Kaufmo the clown did not show up today. Okay. Let me just rewind a little. So, Kaufmo is a clown. Kaufmo sounds like one of those, like, I don't know. They give off depressed energy for sure. Hence them not even showing up. I don't know. If this character turns out to be depressed or alcoholic or just generally struggling to bother to do anything, I would not be surprised. Also, in that shot, there was multiple bubbles, so further evidence of this not being a human. They seem to be capable of translocating into multiple places at once. Then a bunch of stuff floating in the air. We've got a record player, a flower, an eyeball, a pyramid, a tea kettle, and just a general sphere. Oh yeah, and then everything glitched out. Oh, here, let me turn the captions back on. We fly past the moon and the sun, and we don't know why. Also, the sky is, like, very blatantly fake and overlapping or strange. Yeah, they don't know why, giving the impression that they are disturbed, unhappy, confused creatures who have no idea what they're doing here or what's going on. And then, of course, we have this clown person. Who is all about that red and blue with the jester hat and, yeah, jester, just general design. Definitely a feminine aesthetic with the cheeks and the eyelashes being present, the bangs. Obviously, it has an effeminate voice. The fact that they're a jester gives the impression that this character thinks that they are a clown and are a joke of society. Generally looked down upon, is the energy that it gives off. Obviously, again, we don't know if these character designs have any deeper thematic meaning, but it's interesting nonetheless. And their eyes make it look like you're looking at the top of a circus tent, which is interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, and they're still in denial about what's going on here. Oh, we get a better shot of the background here. Yeah, just a bunch more colorful, random nonsense, stairs, building blocks, balloon animals. Bubbles. Is this one of your NPCs or is this a new sucker? Yeah, this is another, further confirmation that this is a video game, which is interesting. Also, further confirmation that Bunny person is a human, and also that Cain is some sort of video game character as well, and is the showrunner of this universe. Having to redo the whole theme song is interesting, because it kind of gives the impression that this is some, like, why are they cooperating? Why are they working on this silly theme song dealio? Like, what do they get out of it? What's the point? I can only... Either Cain is forcing them to, or it's some sort of, therapy. Like, it's their way of staying sane is cooperating in these games and kind of forgetting about the fact that they're trapped in this nightmarish video game world for the rest of their lives. Oh yeah, and she's wearing a VR headset, or they, excuse me, sorry, I'm terrible, in the real world, so that kind of raises a question about... That implies this is taking place in some sort of modern day setting, presumably in 2023 in the real world. Also, here we get this disturbing imagery showing that this person's new digital body is not constrained to the rules of human anatomy. Oh yeah, and foul language can't be used here because this is, again, some sort of children's game. Also, it confirms now that this is meant to be consumed by adults. This is, what do you call it? Adult animation? Is that what they call it nowadays? Yeah, your Rick and Morty's, your Has-Been Hotels, your what have you. Interesting.
Do you think pairing them up together is a good idea?
Of course I do. They're the two most mentally stable and capable characters to be paired together. Come on, ladies. Let's go harass the clown.
Okay, I kind of watched like half of the episode, and again, utter silence. Like I said, I'm not very good at this reaction thing. But yeah, so first off, yeah, okay, so I was right about this being some sort of dark comedy, something focused on subverting the isekai kind of genre. There's a lot of details here that I want to slow down on and check out. One of them is something I think right around here. I think Caine's eyes go blue screen. Let's see here. There's no convenient way to zoom in on this sort of stuff. It looks like fault in non-paged area. Just trying to see if there's anything actually... I mean, it's probably just generic blue screen text. Yeah. Couldn't spot anything specifically strange there. The ground. So we've got some mountains, some sort of tower, a lake, boat, circus, amusement park. Drown yourself in the digital lake. Yeah, again, very dark, very clearly meant to be a dark adult animated piece of media. The hand pointing at the different locations, again, very reminiscent of like 90s video game tech. Choose your own adventure or education, edutainment games type thing. In Writery at the Digital Carnival. Night, day, it's all okay. Cosmic Buffet. And then there's also The Void, which is some sort of big refractory void. I mean, obviously. I see two circles in the middle right there, like a purple and a blue. Spampton, is that you? That joke doesn't even make sense. Neither of those colors are aligned with Spampton's. Yeah, there's definitely circles out there. Like we don't venture onto the void. Not even I know what's out there. Let me check the reflection in his eyes again. I'm probably way overthinking this. But, people recommended that I look at it, so I have to check and see if it, I have to overanalyze it. That's my shtick. I think that's just meant to be a reflection of Pomni. Also, Jax referred to Pomni and Ragatha as ladies, so I'm going to refer to them as female for the rest of this video. Obviously, if anyone's going to misgender, it's Jax, but I'm not going to get caught up on it. Hundreds of all-seeing eyes on you. Cain is clearly trying to be spooky and ridiculous. Also, it's interesting, all-seeing eyes, considering that we see that Kaufmo has turned into a monster. I can assume that using these eyes may be the trick to locating Cain or fetching his attention. But yeah, we'll discuss that in a minute. The moon seems to be sentient and seems to have a thing for Cain, for the moon gets frisky. Again, very much adult humor. An orange exit. Interesting. Oh yeah, what is this stuff that she vomits out? It's multicolored. There's pink and whites and other things in there. I would not be surprised if this is some sort of image that has been stretched out over the texture of the liquid. Maybe some sort of anime character, or like it reminds me of like some sort of Sailor Scout, like wearing some big poofy pink and white dress. Obviously, this could absolutely be a ink blot test type situation where I'm just imagining imagery that doesn't exist. This is clearly meant to be a comedy, and it's decently funny. Also, Jax's mouth can open. It just he just chooses not to most of the time. Also, Zubel, or whatever her name is, she also seems to be able to disassemble, so that's interesting. But yeah, in terms of it being an effective comedy, I think I have chuckled once or twice. So in the 10 minutes or so that I watched leading up to this. So, digital hallucinations. And that's like a 3D glasses kind of blur that you see. Transition to the digital plane. Interesting. So yeah, again, digital. It's interesting that he should use the word digital, actually. Give me one moment. Okay, yeah. Digital is typically used in reference to computers, but it can just mean in reference to any sort of technology based on ones and zeros. So that could include stuff like televisions or... I mean, it is computer tech, so but that doesn't prove anything since this is based on like 90s digital, edutainment games. So, okay. Also, it seems like Cain is either very keen on preventing these characters getting to the exit, or is keenly aware that thinking about the exit too much will cause them to go insane and turn into some sort of abstract digital monster. So that's interesting. Okay, yeah, and the characters can't remember their names once they enter the digital circus. And Cain doesn't have control over their minds. The way he phrases that immediately after saying that they don't have their names implies that he would have allowed them to keep their names if he had a choice in the matter, which is interesting. Because that kind of, and given the way that they describe the games and adventures as being something he uses to try and keep them sane, that kind of gives the impression that Cain's on their side and that he's trying to protect the humans. Which seems to make sense since, he's the master NPC of this, edutainment game. He presumably doesn't hate humanity. He's designed for, protecting kids of all ages. He doesn't even let her swear. So that's interesting. It seems to suggest that this character is some sort of guardian figure. But he also seems to be godlike and has godlike control over this plane, or at least the carnival grounds. So that's interesting. Also, what utter nightmare fuel to lose your name. That's some Studio Ghibli Spirited Away, oh god, I've lost my soul kind of tragedy. That's some horrific. That's more scary than almost anything else in this story so far. So you lose your body, you lose your name, you lose your old life. They take everything from you, except perhaps your soul or whatever it is that gets transferred into your new body. But the fact that they lose their memory of their names, but not their... so that implies that something about the transfer into the video game causes them to lose their names. Why would that be the case? I don't know. It could be some Spirited Away method of getting power over them. Or it could be a case of like the people who are brought here are people who are mentally ill or unhappy or tragic figures of some kind, and the point of the game of the digital circus is to disconnect you from your old life so that way they can kind of do some repair work on your psyche. That'd be optimistic. That's an optimistic interpretation of this setting. And I say that because none of these characters so far have come across like they are happy, sane, stable people. So it could be that by disconnecting you from your old life and your old identity, that could be the only way to really properly do some deep cleansing of your soul or psyche or what have you. So that's interesting. That's a possibility. Oh yeah, and you can't have a name that violates the privacy policy or whatever of the user policy of this game. So again, this is clearly some sort of game, some sort of video game, and it's specifically some sort of multiplayer video game, obviously. What's funny is that this is one of those setups for a world that you never really have to care about explaining, because it could. What I mean is, you could absolutely make the premise of this setting super in depth and complex and have some lore and themes and stuff like that, or you could easily make it one big mystery that's sort of left open to viewer interpretation. Like very Twilight Zone-esque or Goosebumps, or one of those stories where or a never-ending story where it's like, where did that guy get the book from? What the heck's going on there? Like, there's all these mysteries that, like, they may never explain, So it's there's a lot of different directions to go, and I can't really tell if this is meant to be a, how do I put this, writing intensive show, or if it's meant to be a comedy show. Like, some shows aren't out to tell compelling, complex stories. They're here to make you laugh or, make you go, ooh, big explosion. Some stories aren't here to have rich themes and narratives. So I can't really tell yet which direction the show's trying to go in. So we'll see. Oh, yeah. One thing I was going to say earlier I might have forgotten was that either Cain doesn't want them pursuing this exit because it's impossible to get out and he knows it'll drive them insane and turn them into monsters, or he doesn't want them pursuing the exit because he just doesn't want them to leave and he wants them to be part of his circus. Whether his character is villainous or heroic in that regard, or selfish or selfless, is yet to be seen. Something that catches my eye is that certain characters, namely Cain and Jax, look at and interact with the camera, which is strange. It either suggests that they're aware of some sort of camera recording this show, or it's just meant to be a fourth wall breaking kind of gag. I hope it's the former, because that is interesting in his lore, whereas if it's the latter, it's just a joke, and I'm not that interested in jokes. He calls them humanoid hash browns, and they are neither of those things, so that's strange. Yeah, humanoid hash brown. Like, it could be that Cain just has no idea what humans are like, or what they look like. So maybe these strange creatures, these blocky, cuboid, basic shaped creatures, these gloinks, those are the closest thing he can get to what a human might look like? Interesting. I assume Jax is like everyone's favorite character, right? He's got that sarcastic, devil may care. Devil may care? I'm terrible at remembering colloquialisms. He's got that sarcastic energy that I think a lot of people generally tend to enjoy. Yeah, it's probably, like, if Jax has some sort of depth to him, then he's probably the fan favorite. So there's things they can eat here. I'm surprised that all of them can eat. This is a good moment here.
Of course I do. They're the two most mentally stable and capable characters to be paired together. Come on, ladies. Let's
I like that. That's a fun. That's a fun moment.
go harass the clown.
So something interesting here is that we see a bunch of the bedroom doors for all the characters. And I bet if we zoom in, we can kind of spot. Well, one thing I noticed is there's some sort of mannequin door, and I can't tell if that's like, oh, there's some humans here who are mannequins, or if that means there's some sort of, or if that's like a blank, like, oh, this is unused currently. This one back here, it's hard to make out from this angle. I wonder if any, oh yeah, like that's some sort of strange creature. Maybe another jester or a centipede type creature. It's X'd out. And I can't make it out, this one out behind Jack's. But that one's also X'd out. So there's other humans who have come here and are gone now. Possibly dead, possibly... Oh yeah, here's another one. Oh, two of them. A dog, some sort of weasel. Ooh. They don't need to sleep. Kind of take a break from everything. Yeah, another one of these. That is strange. Yeah, I assume this is some sort of blank. Maybe. What was that reflected in her eyes? I keep looking in the reflections of these characters' eyes, expecting to find secrets. Nope, nothing there. Oh, wait. There's King Dice. Oh, no, that's not King Dice. King Dice? Oh, no, I'm referring to other games now. I thought that was King, the King character. But no, that's a queen. Oh, dear. Something tragic may have happened to this character's spouse. And there's the king's room. Okay, and there's another one of these. Yeah, these are just empty. Those are blank. There's no one in there yet. It's a mannequin. I wonder if this is what the character avatars look like before they're infused with a human mind. That could be interesting. And there's Zubul, or whatever her name was. Another empty one, and here's the clown. Oh, and there's the mangle. I can't remember their names. String comedy mask character behind Raggedy Ann here. Oh yeah, and we get to the end of the hallway and we see another mannequin, yeah. What's interesting is that if this is the first hallway, like if this isn't like the second, third, fourth, whatever hallway in the house or the tent or whatever, then this would seem to suggest there's only been a handful of people sucked into this circus. Like, there was only a couple people here before our main characters.
Don't worry, Dollface. I've got a key to his room.
Wait, what? Why?
What's funny is that this door clearly doesn't have a lock on it, so it's like if there wasn't such an ungodly amount of effort put into the design of this show, I might have discounted that as just being a laziness design choice. But no, I think it's intentional, and it's meant to be that kind of goofy video gamey, like a key for a door when there's blatantly no keyhole. Interesting. Yeah, so there's some sort of exit. It almost looks like I don't know, like on the top. Yeah, these are all like pictures of exits from places, which is interesting. No exit. Some sort of strange monsters. These kind of remind me of I think they're called the Jangoliers or something, from Stephen King's stuff. There was like a mini-series. And then we see a depiction of Cain. And then we see Kaufmo. There's something on the bed there. It says, why did T say to something? Or what did someone say to something? Oh, and it shows Cain like trying to eat the clown. Interesting. Yeah, clearly gone bonkers.
looking for this.
We get more paintings of exits, trying to find ways out, eyeballs everywhere, piles of junk, random doodads, a ladder. Abstracted. So if you get too obsessed with finding the exit, you become abstracted. I mean, abstract obviously means something like, well, there's abstract art, for example, which is very digital or very like shapy. I don't know. Let me look up the word. Existing in thought or as an idea, but not having a physical or concrete existence. Relating to abstract art. Consider something theoretically or separately from something else. Extract or remove something. Okay, to abstract more water from streams. So like abstracting can mean losing something. Interesting in the context of losing his mind. It can also be a summary. Interesting. So it's meant to be something that has no concrete or physical existence. Or exists theoretically, or has something been removed from them. Interesting. All of those definitions apply pretty effectively here, where this character has lost his form and become some horrific monster.
That's okay.
What is that?
And he's covered in all these weird eyeballs, multicolored eyeballs, and he's got a strange black
Might be
form.
that terrible thing I was talking about earlier.
Interesting. So yeah, when it zaps her hand, it's like artifacting, like things aren't loading properly. And there was some sort of zap right when they touched. .2D sprite kind of effect. Yeah, it's like it's destabilizing whatever makes up their bodies.
I don't know what I'm looking at here.
We saw Gloin carry one of Zubal's pieces down there, remember?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for the recap.
Very meta, very self-aware. Which can be a good or bad thing, depending on whether it's clever or not. It almost looks like it says radical, but obviously it's radical. Interesting. Very, monsters from Beetlejuice-esque, this worm design creature. Bunch of abstract shapes with googly eyes. You know, I assume these various eyes on these NPC characters can be used to see by Cain. That would be my assumption. Also, I notice there's like weird mechanical stuff in the background. I wonder if that's significant.
You just...
I guess I'll point out the detail that her nose starts bouncing between her eyes like it's Pong. I don't know. It's probably not significant. It's definitely not significant, but I just thought I'd point it out because that might be a detail other people don't point out. Oh, well, that's horrifying. That's like something out of a much darker game. I paused at an incredible time. Also, yeah, that definitely gives the impression of... Yeah, that these mannequins are like these characters without human form. Although it is a little strange because Pomni clearly popped into existence without using them. So I don't know. I don't know how it works. It has weird, intense vision.
A rabbitoid that runs its mouth in the presence of my royal figure.
Well, as a royal,
Rabbitoid is a funny term to use. It's like humanoid, but rabbitoid, which is ironic since he's clearly way more humanoid than he is rabbitoid. Also, that was a barrel of monkeys, which is a children's toy that was popular back in the 80s and 90s. So, that's another reference to that era. She's clearly not back in the real world, despite the change in graphical style. As she's still clearly some sort of strange jester.
Ladies first. No, wait, why would I say that?
So maybe the crybaby thing is also female. Interesting. That was interesting. There's something in the background there, like a poster. I can't quite make out what that's supposed to be, though. Yeah, it's too abstract. It could be some classic video game thing. Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah. A weird headset and a computer. Some old tech. Very grody looking computer. One from the 90s. Again, something very old. Yeah, this is definitely lore. There's some sort of triangle with maybe an eye on it in the center. Illuminati much? Yeah, this definitely gives me the impression of one of those shows that's like, oh my god, lore, in like the first episode, and then you get nothing for like the entire season, and then you get a smidgen more lore, like at the season finale. That's the energy the show gives off. Star versus the evil-esque, you know? Interesting though. C and A. Cain and Abel? Interesting. Okay, going for a biblical energy here. The first two sons. It was Cain who killed Abel. So maybe there used to be something else in here, some other entity besides Cain, and he got axed. And it also has a sort of like, I don't know. It's interesting to see a biblical reference, assuming this is a Cain and Abel thing. Whether that has... What point there is to this biblical allusion, I'm not certain. Maybe it's meant to showcase how, maybe it's meant to be like a recreation of humanity's origin in the digital world. You know? That's an interesting thought. This entire sequence is very reminiscent of, like, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is interesting. That also dealt with man's origins, so maybe that's by design. Okay, here's Cain and Bubble in some sort of high-res restaurant, hanging out with some mannequins, who are animated, so that's interesting.
Oh, Bubble, you always know how to make me say this exact sentence. Yes! Alert on my Wacky Watch at this hour!
The Wacky Watch. Is that... Yeah, that is Wingdings. Interesting. Someone's an Undertale fan. Shipping handling, exclusive TDR, 30-day mega. Again, this is another one of those early 2000s, early 90s, very common thing. Let me just rewind and see what that, what was that image of? Oh, it's just him. Alert, oh no. Vague numbers, age coordinates.
Oh no! Someone's venturing out into the void! They'll get totally spoiled!
Spoiled?
And into the cellar you go!
Oh, great.
I am in so much pain!
Oop.
Can they die? That's the question that occurs to me. Can they escape this living hell? I don't think I would last very long in a place like this. Yeah, you know, I might have to renege on the whole idea of this being a place designed to fix damaged people. If you've got a basement full of abstracted nightmare creatures that used to be human, then that seems to suggest this place is, if it is designed to help people, it sucks at it. And if it's not designed to help people, I don't know. Yeah, this seems like hell. The implication is that Kaufmo gave up. Like, that's the fate of people who give up. Maybe that's a metaphor for death. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe you can't die here, but you can turn into one of those things. Maybe when they try to turn everything else abstract, that's their way of trying to save people. But it clearly wasn't abstracting Raggedy Ann over here. Yeah, this seems like hell. This is horrifying. Interesting that they zoom out to this, because that is a replica, or rather what Pomni saw seemed to have been a replica of this place. Which raises the question of what the heck Pomni was doing here in the first place. Wow. Yeah, they've got merch. Interesting. And that is it. I'm not sure how good my reaction will end up being, unfortunately. I'm not really a reactor, so I'm not very good at it. Specifically, I'm not good at reacting at like episodes of shows, especially not with someone to talk to. So this was interesting. Murder Drones is another of their series. I've been told that might be worth reacting to or theorizing on. As for the Amazing Digital Circus, I guess I should review it. It was interesting. Exploring the utter horrific... sorry, one moment. Yeah, this has the potential to be quite interesting within the context of... I mean, I think the most interesting element is the horrific suffering element and the mental health consequences. It's very much a living hell type situation. So there's definitely room for exploring some interesting themes in that regard. And they seem interested on being very dark and adult, especially with Pomni's clear spiral that she's going through. Whether that leads anywhere interesting, or whether this is one of those shows that spends most of its time on goofy antics and interpersonal relationships and not nearly as much time on themes, characterization, or any sort of grander narrative goals, is hard to tell. I'm not familiar with this creator or their previous works, so I have legitimately no idea what their wheelhouse is. But as far as my experience with this, it was good. It was very well made. Very entertaining. I have no idea if there will be more. I don't know if it's a pilot. I don't know if they're hoping to get picked up by a studio similar to Has Been Hotel, or if they're trying to, I don't know. I don't know what the goal is here. But I will give full props to the animation team. This is really well done. The voice acting is also quite good. Beyond that, yeah, the hell themes are the main ones. I know it's not described as hell, but it definitely feels like hell. And the only aspect of this that I think I could even remotely do anything with in terms of theory crafting is, let's see, where is it? Here we go. Cain and Abel, C&A. I don't actually know that this is Cain and Abel. You know, maybe you guys in the comments can give me some of your deep cut lore into the Amazing Digital Circus lore. But as far as I can tell, the most likely parallel to draw here is the C is in reference to Cain. He's the only other C character, I think. And Cain is most keenly associated with Abel, which would make this a biblical analog, which has the potential to be interesting. You know, stuff like Neon Genesis Evangelion is mostly interesting because of its biblical parallels and biblical inspirations. So there's potential here for some sort of cosmic horror-esque narrative. So yeah, I would assume that's the angle, the game. Yeah, this was interesting. It was an interesting watch. I don't know if I had as much to say about it as I could have. I don't know if this will be a disappointment to those of you who were hoping for more. But I think the only input I can give is that I think the discussion on mental health and mental illness is probably the most fascinating aspect of this, specifically the way that Pomni and friends may spiral into darkness given their horrific scenario. That could be how it goes. In terms of the characters, Pomni herself doesn't get really much chance for characterization. She spends most of it having a panic attack, so not much to do with that. Raggedy Ann's the nice one. Jax is the funny jerk one. Cain is the marginally senile king one. Basically a comic relief character with a potential tragic backstory involving a wife of some kind who abstracted. And then there's the crying one who I did not care for. And there's Cain and Bubble. Bubble is fine, kind of funny. Cain is almost interesting, mostly for his godlike powers and potential, potential biblical relevance. And he mentioned going out into the void could be a spoiler, I guess, for the contents of the show or the nature of their reality. I mean, the reveal is that they're in a computer, which we already knew, but it seems like it's in an abandoned building. So that raises some questions, almost like this is some abandoned corporate office. Who knows? Maybe everyone in the building got sucked in, and all that's left are those husks, those abstracted abominations in the basement. And it's pretty disturbing that they don't get helped or even killed. They get locked away in darkness. So that's pretty horrific. Yeah. So those are my thoughts on the Amazing Digital Circus. It was an interesting time. It's, some people made out as if it was complete bonkers madness, like just utterly deranged insanity. It's not. It's pretty straightforward. These characters are trapped in a video game, and they have avatars that are various types of vaguely humanoid entities. They're going on little adventures in order to keep themselves sane and keep themselves from turning into nightmarish abominations. And they could potentially have interesting relationships and dynamics. I think the only way I could ever find myself truly engaged with a show like this is if the main focus was on how these characters work together to keep themselves from going insane, to keep themselves from spiraling into depression and ultimately self-destruction. That's the main interesting element of this. If it's just a funny, wacky comedy, then that's not quite interesting enough for me. But, maybe other people will be satisfied with that. I don't know. I have no idea what the goal of this series is to be. Like, is it trying to be something fun and wacky and cool, or is it trying to be something deep and meaningful and filled to the brim with characterization and character relationships and themes? And when I say relationships, I don't mean romantic. I just mean relationships, platonic ones. Rivalries, hatreds, loves, passions, friendships, camaraderie, all that jazz. So yeah, there's a lot of potential here. If y'all take interest in this, I could do a theory video on it, see if I can't whip up some sort of theory on the themes of this. I could probably put something together. There's not a lot to work with, but I could probably manage something. But yeah, as a whole, fun time. It was interesting. I think Kaufmo certainly got a raw deal. Interesting, though. Kaufmo is a very specific type of clown. Like, I forget what kind of clown that is. Maybe some sort of... Let me double check real quick, actually. One moment. Interesting, yeah. So, Kaufmo is clearly the... he's a Peirrot clown, which is a type of clown seen in Italian theater. Interestingly, Peirrot clowns were known for being somewhat melancholic, but ultimately symbolic of naivete and innocence, and were lovable because of that. So the fact that the character embodying naivete and innocence is corrupted and, you know, ruined, damned, and then cast into the pit of suffering with the others at the very start of the series, thematically seems to suggest this is a series about, you know, dark subject material, because we literally have the death of Innocence in episode 1. So in that regard, that spells that's good. That bodes well. I'd have to do deeper digging into what kind of characters Raggedy Ann and the others stand for and what symbology one can deduce from them. But I could probably whip up something interesting, theory-wise. If that interests you guys, let me know, and maybe I'll do a theory video on this. With all that said, I think I've covered just about everything. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'd like to give a quick shout out to E-Roll, Hannah Brown, Suit Number 1, Stephanie Klein, Aspen Frost, Leo Dragon Tamer. That's it at that tier. And I'd also like to give a special shout out to Captain APAC, Super CKX7. And that's it at that tier. Very unprofessional. And then an extra crazy special shout out to the Mad Lads in the Spamted tier, of which I have multiple this month. Shout outs to go to Riff6 and Malachi. Wow. Thank you both so much for supporting me on the Spamted tier. That's mad. I'm incredibly grateful, though, and I look forward to making more content for you guys. This channel would not be able to survive without your support, so thank you very, very much. And with all that said, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign out. Like if you enjoyed the video, comment if you got something to say, subscribe if you want to see more, and as always, have a fantastic day.